The Nintendo Game Boy was a revolutionary handheld console that paved the way for portable gaming as we know it today. It was first released in 1989 and remained popular throughout the 90s. With over 1,000 games released for the Game Boy, it was hard to narrow down the top games. However, after careful consideration and research, I've come up with a list of the top 15 Game Boy games of all time. Let's get started. Number 15. Kirby Star Stacker. Released in 1997, this is a charming and addictive puzzle game that is often overlooked in the discussion of best Game Boy games. The game's simple yet challenging gameplay involves matching colored stars to eliminate them, and its cute graphics and catchy soundtrack perfectly capture the Kirby universe. Despite being released in 1997, the game's graphics and sound are impressive, especially considering the Game Boy's capabilities. The game's difficulty level is well balanced, making it enjoyable for players of all ages and skill levels. Kirby Star Stacker is a hidden gem amongst Game Boy games and is definitely worth checking out for anyone who loves puzzle games or the Kirby franchise. Number 14. Dr. Mario. After release in 1990, Dr. Mario quickly became a classic puzzle game due to its simple yet challenging gameplay. The game's objective is to match colored pills to eliminate viruses, and as players progress through the levels, the difficulty increases. The game's graphics and sound were impressive for the Game Boy's capabilities, with catchy tunes that perfectly captured the game's atmosphere. Dr. Mario's popularity led to its inclusion in various Nintendo consoles, such as the NES and the Super Nintendo, and even a mobile app, making it a game that has stood the test of time and remains a fan favorite to this day. Number 13. Ninja Gaiden Shadow. Released in 1991, this was a game that was not only expand on the Ninja Gaiden universe, but would also set the standard for future Ninja Gaiden games on handheld consoles. The game's engaging storyline follows Ryo Hayabusa on a mission to stop an evil organization, and its challenging platform elements require players to think strategically and make use of a variety of weapons and ninja skills. The game's graphics and sound were impressive for Game Boy's capabilities, with detailed environments and a haunting soundtrack that perfectly captured the game's atmosphere. The game's difficulty level is perfectly balanced, providing a challenge for players of all ages without being too frustrating, unlike its NES counterparts. Overall, Ninja Gaiden Shadow is a classic Game Boy game that should not be missed by any platformer fan or Game Boy enthusiast. Number 12. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Fall of the Foot Clan. A classic Turtles game that was released in 1990 and was the first Ninja Turtles game for the Game Boy. The game features the four turtles, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael, on a mission to stop the evil Shredder and his Foot Clan. The game's graphics and sound are impressive for the Game Boy's capabilities, and the gameplay is smooth and responsive. The game's difficulty level is perfect for players of all ages, with a good balance of challenge and fun. The game features a variety of enemies and bosses, each with their own unique attacks and patterns. The game also includes power-ups and special moves that can be unlocked as players progress through the levels. Overall, Fall of the Foot Clan is a must-play for any Game Boy enthusiasts and a great addition to any Ninja Turtles fans' collection. Its engaging gameplay, impressive graphics and sound, and perfect difficulty level make it a timeless classic that is still enjoyable to play today. Number 11. Kirby's Pinball Land. This was not just any ordinary pinball game. Released in 1993, it was a unique blend of pinball and platformer elements, with Kirby serving as the ball and players controlling his movements. The game's levels were not just simple pinball tables, but instead they were inspired by Kirbys Dreamland and included new enemies and bosses to defeat. The game's graphics and sound were impressive for the Game Boy's capabilities, with vibrant colors and catchy tunes that perfectly captured the Kirby universe, Additionally, the game's difficulty level was well balanced, making it enjoyable for players of all ages and skill levels. Kirby's Pinball Land was a game that stood out amongst the sea of Game Boy games and remains a beloved classic to this day. Number 10. Garo Quest. Released in 1990, Garo Quest is a unique and engaging platformer that offers a fresh take on the Ghosts and Goblins universe. The game's protagonist, Firebrand, is a brave gargoyle on a mission to save his realm from an evil king, and players must guide him through a variety of challenging levels filled with enemies and obstacles. The game's graphics and sounds are impressive, with detailed environments and a haunting soundtrack that perfectly captures the game's atmosphere. The game's difficulty level is well balanced, providing a challenge for players of all ages and skill levels without being too frustrating. Overall, Garo Quest is a classic Game Boy game that should not be missed by any platformer fan or Game Boy enthusiast. As well, it has a sequel on the NES if you find out that you really enjoy it and can't wait for some more. Number 9. Final Fantasy Adventure. Released in 1991, this was a game that not only set the standard for action RPGs on the Game Boy, but also laid the foundation for the Mana series, which would go on to become one of the most beloved RPG franchises of all time. The game's engaging story follows a young hero on a quest to save the world from an evil empire, and its challenging gameplay requires players to think strategically and make use of a variety of weapons and magic spells. The game's memorable music, composed by Kenji Ito, perfectly captures the game's atmosphere and adds to the overall experience. Final Fantasy Adventure's legacy can still be felt today, with the Mana series continuing to release new games and remakes, making it a franchise that has stood the test of time and cementing Final Fantasy Adventure's place in gaming history as a true classic. Speaking of which, the time this video is recorded, there is another Mana game being released later this year of 2024. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Number 8. Return of Samus. Released in 1991, this is a game that not only expanded on the Metroid universe, but also set the standard for future Metroid games. The game's non-linear gameplay and exploration elements were groundbreaking for the time and have since become a staple of the series. The game's new power-ups, such as the Spider Ball and Space Jump, added new layers of strategy to the gameplay, while the new enemies, such as Alpha Metroid and Gamma Metroid, provided a fresh challenge for players. The game's graphics and sound were also impressive, with detailed environments and a haunting soundtrack that perfectly captured the game's eerie atmosphere. Overall, it is a must-play for any Metroid fan or Game Boy enthusiast. We're midway through, and I know there are probably other games you'd put on this list, and maybe some you're wondering why you haven't seen yet. Be sure to sound off in the comments on anything you thought deserved to be here that we missed. And if you're enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Now, back to the list. Number 7. Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land. Released in 1994, Super Mario Land 3 Wario Land was a significant addition to the Mario franchise, as it introduced players to Wario, a character who would go on to have his own successful series of games. The game's unique gameplay mechanics, such as Wario's ability to body slam and shoulder charge, added a new level of strategy to a platformer game. The game's levels were well designed and offered a good challenge to players, with hidden paths and secrets to discover. Additionally, the graphics and sound were impressive for Game Boy's capabilities, with vibrant colors and catchy tunes that were perfectly captured the game's whimsical atmosphere. Super Mario Land 3 Wario Land remains a beloved classic amongst Game Boy enthusiasts and is a must-play for any Mario fan. Number 6. Kirbys Dreamland. Released in 1992, this was a game that not only introduced players to the lovable pink puffball, though he was only white at the time, but also set the standard for future Kirby games. The game's unique ability to inhale enemies and copy their powers added a new level of strategy to the platform genre, and its perfectly balanced difficulty level made it enjoyable for players of all ages. The game's graphics and sound were impressive for Game Boy's capabilities, with vibrant colors and catchy tunes that perfectly captured the game's whimsical atmosphere. Kirbys Dreamland was a game that captured the hearts of many and remains a beloved classic to this day. Number 5. Donkey Kong 94. This is a unique platformer that was released in 1994 and is a must-play for any Game Boy enthusiast. This game features 97 levels, including the original Donkey Kong levels, and introduces new moves for Mario such as handstands and backflips. The game's puzzles are challenging and require players to think creatively, making it a game that will keep you engaged for hours on end. The game's graphics and sounds are impressive, and the game's replay value is high, as players can unlock new levels and modes by completing the game. Donkey Kong 94 is a classic Game Boy game that should not be missed. Number 4. Link's Awakening. Released in 1993, Link's Awakening was a significant addition to the Zelda franchise, as it was the first game to be released on a handheld console. The game's storyline is captivating, as players take control of Link, who is stranded on an island and must awaken the Windfish to escape. The game features new enemies, characters, and items, as well as challenging puzzles that require players to think creatively. The game's soundtrack is also one of the best on the Game Boy, with memorable tunes that perfectly capture the game's atmosphere. Overall, Link's Awakening is a must-play for any Zelda fan or Game Boy enthusiast, having gotten 2 remakes, once on the Game Boy Color as Link's Awakening DX, and once on the Nintendo Switch as a brand new Link's Awakening. Not a sequel, unfortunately. That would have just been, well, you play the game, you'll understand. Number 3. Pokemon! Released in 1999, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow were not only groundbreaking games for the Game Boy, but they also changed the gaming industry forever and got many kids in trouble at school. The game's unique mechanics, such as the ability to catch and train your own Pokemon, added a new level of depth to the RPG genre and created a new type of gaming experience that already existed from Shin Megami Tensei, which Pokemon took inspiration from, but we ignore that. The game's popularity led to a franchise that includes numerous games, trading card game, an anime series, and even a live-action movie, which we don't talk about, making it one of the most successful franchises in history. The game's impact on pop culture cannot be overstated, and they remain beloved classics to this day, with many players still revisiting them for the nostalgia and the fun gameplay. Number 2. Super Mario Land. Released in 1989, Super Mario Land was a groundbreaking game for the Game Boy, as it was the first time that players could experience the beloved Mario franchise on a handheld console. The game's new features, such as the ability to shoot bouncing fireballs and jump higher, added a new level of excitement to the gameplay. Additionally, the game's new world and enemies provided a fresh experience for players while still maintaining the familiarity of the Mario franchise. These factors, combined with the game's charming graphics and catchy soundtrack, made Super Mario Land an instant hit with players and a must-play for any Game Boy enthusiast. And number 1, as if there was any doubt, Tetris. Tetris was released in 1989, and it is not only a classic puzzle game, but it is one of the most iconic video games of all time. Its popularity has led to adaptations on numerous platforms, including the Game Boy. The game's simple yet challenging gameplay involves fitting falling blocks together to create complete lines, and its addictive nature has made it a favorite amongst Game Boy players for decades. It's a must-play for any Game Boy enthusiast, and a game that has stood the test of time. Well, thank you for watching our list of the top 15 Game Boy games of all time. I hope you enjoyed this video and found some new games to add to your collection. And a special thank you to the people at World of Longplays whose gameplay footage was used in the making of this video. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more gaming content. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll never miss a video. Also, share this video with your friends who love gaming, and let me know in the comments which Game Boy games are your favorites. I know some of y'all love Penguin Wars. I know some of y'all do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, this has been Azure Tony. Today, we found some fun in gaming, and I hope you enjoyed yourselves too. Take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. I'll catch you next time.